Hello everyone, welcome back to the July 2nd League of Legends DFS Esports breakdown. Should be a pretty interesting 5-gamer. Just for just off the bat, I just spent 30 minutes recording this whole video just to find out that the screen capture was recording the wrong monitor. So I just had a 30-minute video of me talking, and it was just my desktop background recording my second monitor. So I'm probably going to be a little bit quicker in this one just because I don't want to spend an hour doing this and repeating the same stuff again. So I apologize for the little bit shorter video and not as much detail in this one, but hopefully we can get the information out either way. Quickest recap: Dom1 got the 2-0 over KT. I think they were pretty dominant in game 2. Game 1, I think KT definitely had the upper hand in, but the better team ended up coming back in and winning that one. And then T1 DRX, I think pretty similar. Game 1 was pretty close up until I can't remember when, but they ended up finding a couple picks in the top side of the map and just kind of steamrolling and winning the game. And then game 2 is not even close. So double favorite 2-0s over in the LCK, and then over in the LPL we had a pretty intriguing one. A couple intriguing games. Obviously, we had double underdogs of TT and AL. Neither of them ended up coming through. However, again, I do think TT were actually in pretty good spots in both of those games. So I think maybe a slightly better TT can actually win one or two of those games, and kind of prove us a little bit right there. And then obviously AL ended up winning the first game and then losing the second game. Game 3 was actually really, really close back and forth. Definitely could have gone either way. So we're definitely, I think, fine with that one as well. Overall, still, these underdogs are not going our way, but I think they're making it close. And again, I think we're putting ourselves in pretty good spots. I don't want to rehash all that stuff, but I think we have decent reads on everything. It's just kind of not going our way, and it's going to happen sometimes. It is what it is, but I think that'll be it for just that part. Looking ahead to tomorrow, we have our 3 series in the LPL for the weekend. It is LNG LGD, FPX JDG, and then Weibo Top Esports. So over in LNG LGD, the first matchup, they're swapping out their top laner. They're bringing in Chalitza. He is a kind of, I forget the term, like a journeyman top laner, I guess you could say. He's been on a lot of bad teams, and I don't think this is a great spot. He's been TT, Dominus, back with Vici, so he's been on a lot of teams. None of them have been pretty good at all, so pretty rough for him. I don't think this is necessarily an upgrade or downgrade. I think I would have preferred to see kept Fearness in for the LGD top lane, but I think in this particular matchup, I don't think it matters too much. I do think this is probably just going to be a straight up LNG 2-0. Although LGD do present some upside, they did look pretty good in for example, their series against AL. However, you guys kind of know my stance on that series. I think they've shown some promise, especially like Hai Chao and Assume with Shadow doing well. I think Jinjel's been doing enough for them. I just don't think this is too much of a battle to go up against LNG here. So I'll go with LNG quick 2-0. FPX JDG, again, I kind of spent a long time in the last video talking about this, so I don't want to rehash too much, but I'm going with FPX here, although this is probably a big surprise to a lot of you guys because I'm typically riding JDG pretty heavily, to a 6-0 record, so only good things to say for JDG. FPX 1-5, I was riding them in their losing streak, so again, pretty surprising. I was kind of notoriously not on the FPX side, and I was notoriously on the JDG side, so it's probably a surprise. However, I think all things considered, we look at FPX's match history. They've, taken a game off of EDG, taken a game off of RNG, taken a game off of Top Esports. Obviously got swept by V5 and IG, which are not good at all. But I think they've shown enough in some of these games to definitely warrant a level of respect, despite their 1-5 record. And then on the JDG side, I think it's a pretty similar story, kind of the other way. They've dropped a couple games where they probably shouldn't, like to LGD, Ultra Prime, and OMG, and that was the OMG version that was not quite up and running yet. So I think they've dropped a few games where they probably shouldn't, and I think FPX has picked up a few games, and I think overall their records and standings are kind of a little misleading. I do think, again, JDG probably isn't that top three of the league. I do think it is a V5, JDG, Top Esports. Those top three teams are probably kind of a cut above the rest at the moment, but we know JDG's playstyle lends itself to being pretty volatile. They're definitely aggressive and like to push the pace. I do think FPX are good enough to contend with them in this one, and I do think, looking at as a whole, JDG dropped some games where they shouldn't. FPX pick up a few games, and maybe that's something that happens twice in this series, and we do see FPX get a 2-1 upset win. It's definitely something I could foresee happening, and for that reason, I'm going to take that underdog pick at plus 300. I think this is a pretty decent spot. I think this is a close series overall. I think the most likely scenario is probably JDG in 3. However, I'm willing to take the plus 300 when I think it's most likely going to come down to a third map. When it's if you're giving me plus 300 in a best of 1 in the LPL, I'll be taking my odds there for sure. So I'll take that for sure. I just like the outlook of this one. I think this is a pretty bloody one. Did end up, I did get the stats ready beforehand, but all 3 of the LPL games are massively outscoring the LCK games. I do think FPX JDG is the most likely game to blow up and produce fantasy goodness. The combined kills per minute is much higher in this one. The average game time is just a little bit longer in the other 2 series, and I think that's what kind of balances it out. We have a under 30-minute average game time in FPX JDG, so I think they're looking at a lot of fighting in FPX JDG, so I think that's most likely the spot for that. I think this would be the number 1 series for sure. I think you could definitely go on both sides of this one, and it would be a good spot. I just like the FPX side. I think there's some merit to even game stacking here. This would definitely be a long shot, kind of hope and a prayer build, but I think it's worth noting, or worth mentioning at least, that I do think this is a series where it can get crazy. It can go either side. It can go 3, and I could definitely see FPX and JDG, they swap like 20 kill defeats, and they end up having gigantic scores on both sides. That's definitely something I think is viable in this series, so it's worth mentioning. However, I'm most likely just going to end up taking the FPX side here a little bit and kind of calling it a day. Weibo Top Esports is the 3rd LPL match, and I'm honestly a little surprised that the odds are as close as they are. I think Top Esports are a good bit better than Weibo. They've just been pretty consistently decent. They have a lot more clean like 2-0s and stuff. Weibo have been dropping a few games here and there, and they've not looked great in a lot of these series. I think they're very punishable, and I think it's very replicable of how you beat Weibo. It's definitely punish topside heavy, continuously put the shy behind, and he'll just continuously make mistakes. I think this is a pretty big spot for Top Esports to kind of put their hammer down and I think crush Weibo. I'm honestly still a little surprised that these odds are this close. I would have Top Esports maybe like a minus 250 or so. I don't view Weibo as being that great of a team to warrant this price tag. I mean, granted, Weibo do typically play to their opponent's strengths, so I could definitely see it being like a 2-1 going one way or the other, but I feel like the blueprint is there, and I think it's pretty easily executable for Top Esports. And mainly what it comes down to, I think, is mid jungle. I think Knight and Tiana are respectively the best in their roles, and I think Weibo, that's their weakness. I don't think SOFM or Angel are necessarily great in their roles either. It does bother me a little bit, or worry me from the bottom lane. I'm still not high on Jackie 11 Mark. However, I think they're going to be, hopefully they just trade farm and don't die, and I think they'll be fine. I think the top 3 specifically of Top Esports with Wayward, Tiana, and Knight are going to be able to exert their dominant lane pressure. I think Knight's going to be able to bully Angel out of lane. He'll group up with Tian, bully the SOFM, and then I think the 3 of them are going to be able to group up, bully the shy, make things happen both top and mid lane between Wayward, Tian, and Knight. And I think that's going to be a pretty easy game plan, and the players that Top Esports have work really well for that game plan as well. So I'm pretty high on Top Esports here. Again, I'm pretty surprised by the price, so I'll be locking and loading a good bit of Top Esports. Again, they're statistically at over 25 kills per match, average between both of the teams. So all 3 of the LCK games, all 3 of the LPL games, I think are pretty viable. I think FPX JDG is a is probably the best one. However, all three of them I think are statistically viable. And I definitely don't mind going with LNG. I like LNG a good bit. We know LGD like to lose a lot in their losses. LGD like to lose a lot in their losses, and then we know LNG can pick up some good sizable wins. I do have some concern for Weibo Top Esports that it could be a little bit slower. However, statistically speaking, it's still above a 25. It's still a pretty solid mark there for that game. So, as much as my feel is that I don't like that series, I'm still going to lock and load some Top Esports either way. We know that their fantasy scoring can get pretty strong as well. And then FPX AG, I think, is going to be the most popular series. It's statistically number one, not by much, but I think just looking at the team names and looking at how they play, it's definitely going to be the most popular series. But I'm willing to go with FPX either way, and I think GDG will be the most owned team on the slate, so I'm willing to hopefully get some leverage there, mix my FPX with my Top Esports and my LNG, and probably call it a day, not get too crazy. Venturing over to the LCK, I mean, statistically, they're like 4 whole kills underneath everyone else on the slate. It's just really hard to justify anything here. I do think Live Sandbox probably get the 2-0 over Fredit Brion, and I think Genji probably just get the 2-0 over KDF. So maybe there is some warrant of looking at maybe like a Genji getting enough in their 2-0. However, I'm personally just not going to be on that band at all. I'm going to be purely looking at the LCK today as a team slot one-off potential. Genji are obviously pretty expensive at 6K. I'd imagine they're going to be a pretty highly owned team slot, considering they've had a couple 60-point performances, and that's kind of the bar that you're looking for from the team slot. However, I think LSB, considering that they're going up against Fredit Brion, is going to definitely bolster how much they get. So I think LSB would be the number one team slot option for me. That's definitely where I'm going to be looking, and I think they're probably going to be a little bit lesser owned than like the Genji team slot, for example. So it's an extra little bit uniqueness there available to you. So yeah, I think that'll kind of be it. We'll look at the players and then get out of here again. Sorry for the speed run, but I've talked about all this already. I just am not, frankly, not in the mood really to break down and talk about everything once again. I'm sure you guys could understand my frustration there, but yeah, that'll be it. We'll look here. So again, we like to look at groupings. Groupings are pretty strong for LNG. Looks like Doinby, Iwandi, Light, and Tarzan are all kind of towards the upper end. Looks like for Top Esports, the grouping would be Knight, Tian, maybe Jackie Love. Wayward is kind of down there, but again, Wayward would be a pretty solid top lane option I'd like to focus on in matchup specifically. FPX is not the best overall. It is Hang, Care, Clid, and LWX. So again, just kind of those 4. But LNG's groupings are pretty strong, specifically Doinby, Light, and Iwandi, and then Tarzan not far behind. So it looks like they're all pretty fine. LWX's numbers, again, are pretty low, but again, that was shown in the last series that he could definitely outperform these numbers for sure. So we'll go quickly position by position and then go ahead and get out of here. Top lane, again, statistically, it's either Ale or Wayward, although Shallow, whose kill share is pretty strong. I think all 3 are fine. I just worry in FPX's case, at least, that going against 369 is going to be a pretty tough battle. I do like Ale and their ability to probably get the sweep, so that's a pretty good spot for them as well. However, my focus is going to be on Wayward. I like lock and loading these top laners against the Shy. We know the Shy can put up these really, really bad performances, and we could definitely see a pretty solid performance coming out from Wayward, bullying the Shy a little bit. Junglers, all the same, just whoever you're stacking with, pretty much statistically and out of the game, they're kind of the same. Again, I like Top Esports and Tian and his ability, but it's just pretty much whatever team you're stacking, you probably want your jungler to match. Mid laner, Knight and Doinby, probably a good bit better than everyone else. I mean, Knight's kill share is pretty crazy. I expect, again, Knight and Doinby to be pretty proactive, move around the map, make a lot of things happen. However, again, I think if you are stacking FPX because of that really good game environment, you probably still just want to go to Care either way. Although he is 8% lower in kill participation than everyone else, 70% is still very fine if you're, in the best kill environment. AD carries, I think nothing stands out really above anyone else. Again, I think LWX's numbers are a little bit misleading, although it's hard to argue with Light having a 70% kill participation and 36% kill share. So really strong numbers from Light. However, again, I think this is fine with whoever you're stacking with. And then for support, I think, again, it's pretty similar. It's just whoever you're stacking with. However, again, I typically do like to look and target the supports who are most likely to sweep, which in this case would be Iwandi. I do like getting those sweep bonuses on my support and top laner typically, because those are the two worst fantasy performing roles. So, you know, if you have your AD carry in a 2-1 from another series, he's most likely going to still perform fine, as opposed to somebody like a support and a loss that could easily go like 0-6 or something and put up like a negative score in your lineup, which is very bad. So I typically like to focus on those sweeps for my top laner and my support. So, you know, that's going to be the way I'm looking. Again, sorry for the quick video, the speed run, but you know, this is an early start for the slate, and I'm getting the video out a little late, and already recorded it once. I don't want to do it again. Quickly, here are the stats again in case you guys needed them. It's pretty much all three of the LPL games are much better than the LCK ones, so nothing too crazy really to talk about. So yeah, I think that I kind of talked about everything, talked about the players and the direction I'm headed. So hopefully we can get a little bit of better variance going to our side, and maybe we can have our underdogs finally win a game 3. And that'll be what we're looking out for today. So best luck to you guys all tonight, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.